The rain was pounding the black umbrellas when the stranger stepped close to my wife's coffin, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "I'm her real husband." Before I could speak, he leaned in and whispered a secret that shattered her funeral, and I knew my life would never be the same. Stay with me to the end of the story. Watch and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. I never thought a funeral could feel louder than a war, but that day it did. The church bell rang slow and heavy, like it was counting down the last seconds of my old life. My hands shook as I stood by the casket, staring at the smooth wood, trying to accept that my wife, Emily, was inside it. 10 years together. 10 years of love, fights, jokes, and plans. All gone. People lined up to give me soft hugs and quiet words. She was so kind. She loved you so much. She talked about you all the time. I nodded and thanked them because that's what a grieving husband does. Inside I felt hollow, like someone had scooped my chest clean and left only cold air. Then I saw him. He didn't belong there. I knew at the moment our eyes met. He was tall, wearing a dark gray coat that looked too clean for the rain. His hair was neat, his face calm. Too calm. He wasn't crying. He wasn't whispering prayers. He was watching me. I tried to look away, but he walked closer, each step slow and sure. People moved aside for him like they didn't even notice. He stopped beside the coffin and placed his hand on it, gentle, like he had done it 1,000 times before. That's when he spoke. "I'm her real husband." The words didn't make sense at first. My brain refused to hear them. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. "You're confused," I said. "This is my wife." He looked at me with eyes full of something dark. Not anger, not sadness, confidence. "No," he said softly. "She was mine first, and she never stopped being mine." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My sister grabbed my arm. "Mark," she whispered, "what is he talking about?" The stranger leaned closer. His breath smelled like mint. "Ask her about the blue house by the lake," he said. "Ask her about the name she used before Emily Carter." My knees went weak. The blue house. Only Emily and I knew about that. Or so I thought. Before I could say another word, church staff rushed in, pulling him away. He didn't fight them. He just smiled at me as they let him out, like a man who knew he had already won. That smile followed me even after the coffin was lowered into the ground. It followed me home. It followed me into the night. And I knew one thing for sure. Emily had lied to me. I met Emily 10 years ago at a small coffee shop in Seattle. I spilled coffee on her shoes, and she laughed instead of yelling. She had warm eyes and a gentle voice. She told me she worked in design and had just moved to town. No family nearby. No past worth talking about. I believed her. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Our wedding was simple. Just friends, some family, and a lot of smiles. Emily cried when she said her vows. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found someone so pure, so open. She used to wake me up with pancakes on Sundays. She hated scary movies, but watched them anyway because I liked them. She cried when we lost our dog. She held my hand when my father died. How could a woman like that hide a whole other life? The night after the funeral, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the stranger's face, heard his voice. I'm her real husband. I went into Emily's study. I had avoided it since her death. It still smelled like her lavender candle. I sat at her desk and opened the drawers, looking for anything that could explain what I had heard. At first, there was nothing. Pens, old notebooks, bills. Then, at the back of the bottom drawer, I found a small metal box. It was locked. Emily hated locks. She used to say they were for people with secrets. My hands shook as I carried the box to the garage. I found a hammer and brought it down hard. The lock broke with a sharp crack. Inside were photos. Not of me. Photos of Emily with the stranger. Younger. Happier. Standing in front of a blue house by a lake. My chest tightened. I flipped through them, my heart racing. There were letters, too. Dozens of them. All signed with the same name. Daniel. I sat on the floor and read until my eyes burned. Emily and Daniel. Married. Years ago. She talked about leaving. about starting over, about fear. Fear of what? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hello. Mark. A man's voice said. The same calm voice from the funeral. I was wondering when you'd find the box. My blood ran cold. How did you get this number? He chuckled. Emily gave it to me, just in case. Rage surged through me. You have no right to call me. Oh, but I do, Daniel said. You lived my life, slept in my bed, loved my wife. She was my wife. I shouted. There was a pause. Then he spoke again, slower this time. Meet me tomorrow. I'll tell you everything she never did. Why would I do that? Because, he said, her death wasn't an accident. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. Emily's death had been ruled an accident, a simple fall down the stairs. I had believed it because believing was easier than thinking. Now, nothing felt real. The next morning, I drove to the address he sent, a quiet diner on the edge of town. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, telling myself to leave, to go home, to forget him. But revenge has a funny way of pulling you forward. Daniel was already there, sitting in a booth by the window. He waved like we were old friends. You look tired, he said as I sat down. Talk, I said. Now. He smiled and slid a folder across the table. She ran from me, he said. Changed her name, changed her hair, changed her life. Or so she thought. I opened the folder. Inside were documents, marriage papers, bank records, photos, proof. She never divorced me, he continued, which means your marriage was a lie. My hands clenched. Why are you telling me this? Because she was planning to leave you too, he said, and because someone pushed her. I looked up. What did you just say? Daniel leaned forward, his eyes dark. Emily was murdered. The diner felt like it was spinning. You're lying. I'm not, he said calmly. And the person who did it is closer than you think. Before I could ask who he meant, the waitress screamed. I turned just in time to see a man in a hood pull a knife from his jacket and rush toward our table. Daniel stood fast. The knife flashed under the diner lights as the man lunged straight at me. The knife came down fast, shining like a silver flash in my eyes. I pushed back, so hard the booth slammed into wall. The man missed my chest by inches, the blade cutting the air where my heart had been a second before. People screamed. Plates shattered. Someone knocked over a chair. Daniel grabbed the man's arm. Now! Daniel shouted. I didn't think. I just moved. I slammed my fist into the attacker's face. Pain exploded through my knuckles, but the man staggered back. The knife clattered the floor. 2 customers jumped in. Someone called the police. The attacker broke free and ran for the door, crashing through it and disappearing into the street. The diner went silent except for heavy breathing. I stared at Daniel. You set me up, I said. Daniel raised his hands. No, I warned you. Police arrived minutes later. Questions flew at us like bullets. Daniel spoke calmly. I could barely form words. My hand still shook. After giving my statement, I stepped outside into the cold air. Daniel followed. That man, I said, who was he? Daniel's jaw tightened. Someone who didn't want you hearing the truth. Whose truth? Emily's. I laughed, bitter and loud. You don't get to say her name like you knew her. I knew her before you, he snapped. And I loved her enough to know she was in danger. I wanted to hit him. Instead, I asked the question burning inside me. Who killed my wife? Daniel looked around, then leaned close. Not yet, he said. But I know who helped. Days passed like a blur. The police called it a random attack. I knew better. Daniel knew better. I stopped sleeping. Every sound felt like a threat. I replayed memories of Emily, searching for cracks I had missed. Her late nights, her quiet phone calls, her sudden fear stares after that small fall months before she died. Daniel kept calling. I ignored him until the envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Watch this alone. I locked my doors and sat at my computer. My finger hovered over the mouse. Then I clicked. The video showed Emily. She was crying. "Mark," she said, looking straight into the camera, "if you're seeing this, it means I'm gone. And I'm so sorry." My chest tightened. "There are things I never told you," she continued. "Things I was too scared to say. Daniel was my husband first. I ran because he scared me. But when I left, I didn't leave clean." The screen flickered. Emily wiped her face. "I owe money," she whispered. "A lot of it. Dangerous people. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I acted normal, they'd forget me. But they didn't." My stomach dropped. "If something happens to me," she said, voice shaking, "please don't trust the police. And don't trust anyone who acts too helpful." The video ended. I sat there in silence, my world collapsing piece by piece. My phone rang. "Daniel." I answered. "You knew," I said. "You knew all this." "Yes," he replied. "And now they know you know." "Who are they?" "You'll see soon." That night, my house alarm went off. I grabbed a bat and ran downstairs. The back door was open. Cold air rushed in. On the kitchen table sat a single photo. It was of me, taken that day, and written across it in red ink were the words, "You're next." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with the lights on, the bat across my knees, staring at the front door like it might open on its own. Every sound made my heart jump. The hum of the fridge, a car passing outside, the wind against the windows. Emily's face kept flashing in my mind. Her smile, her fear in the video, how she said she owed dangerous people. By morning, I knew one thing. I was done being confused. I called Daniel. "We need to talk," I said. "We already are," he replied. "Come to the Blue House." My stomach turned. "The one by the lake?" "Yes," he said. "It's time you see where this started." The drive felt endless. The lake road was quiet, lined with tall trees and thick fog. When the house came into view, my hands tightened on the steering wheel. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. Daniel stood on the porch, arms crossed. "She loved this place," he said as I stepped out, "until it became a cage." Inside, the house smelled old and damp. Dust covered the furniture. Daniel walked me to a back room and opened a floor panel. "Emily hid things here," he said. Inside were bags filled with cash, papers, and a small black notebook. I picked it up. It was Emily's handwriting. Names, dates, numbers, payments. "This is proof," Daniel said, "of who she owed and who helped them watch her." "Who?" I asked. He looked at me. "Your brother." My blood went cold. "No." "Mark," Daniel said. "He worked for the company laundering the money. He recognized Emily. He didn't tell you because he needed her quiet." I shook my head. "You're lying." Daniel pulled out his phone and played a recording. My brother's voice filled the room, talking about Emily, about keeping her calm, about the stairs being a problem. I dropped the notebook. Rage burned through me. My own blood, my own family. Sirens wailed in the distance. Daniel cursed. They found us. Windows shattered. Men rushed in, guns raised. Daniel shoved me toward the back door. "Run." I sprinted into the woods as gunshots exploded behind me. A bullet ripped past my ear. I tripped, rolled, and slammed into ground. Hands grabbed me. A hood came off. It was my brother. He raised his gun. "I told you not to dig," he said. Then he pulled the trigger. The gun went off. I closed my eyes, waiting for pain. Instead, I heard a scream. When I opened my eyes, my brother was on the ground, his gun flying from his hand. Daniel stood behind him, holding a rock streaked with blood. His chest rose and fell hard. "Get up," Daniel said to me. "Now." My legs barely worked, but I stood. My brother groaned, clutching his head. "You chose him over her," I said, my voice shaking. "You chose money over my wife." He looked up at me, fear in his eyes. "You don't understand," he said. "They don't let you walk away." Gunshots echoed again, closer this time. Daniel grabbed the notebook from my hands. This ends tonight, he said. We go public. We ran to the woods, branches tearing at my clothes, my lungs burning. We reached the road just as police cars came into view. Daniel raised his hands and shouted, "We have evidence of murder." They arrested us both. Hours later, we sat in separate rooms. Detectives asked questions. I told them everything. About the funeral, the stranger, the knife, the threats, the video, the notebook. They didn't believe me at first. Then they watched the video. Then they listened to the recording. Everything changed. My brother was brought in, hands cuffed, eyes empty. He wouldn't look at me. They told me Emily didn't fall. She was pushed by a man sent to scare her, a man my brother let into our home. I screamed until my throat burned. Daniel was released first. I was let go the next morning. Outside the station, he waited. "This isn't over," he said. "The men above your brother are still free." I nodded. "Then we finish it." That night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A message appeared. "You were never the target. She was, and now you are." Attached was a photo. It showed Daniel, tied to a chair, bleeding, and behind him, a familiar face smiling at the camera. My brother, free. My hands shook as I stared at the photo. Daniel's face was swollen. Blood ran from his lip. His eyes were still open, still fighting. Behind him stood my brother, smiling like I had never seen him smile before. Cold, proud. They sent an address with one more message. "Come alone if you want him alive." I didn't call the police. Not because I was brave. Because I was done trusting anyone else with my revenge. I drove through the night, my mind sharp and quiet. Every memory of Emily played like fire in my chest. Her laugh, her fear, her last words in the video. "I'm so sorry." I pulled into an old warehouse near the docks. The place was dead silent. One light burned inside. I walked in. Daniel was tied to a chair in the center of the room. My brother stood behind him. Two other men watched from the shadows. "You really came," my brother said, "just like she said you would." I stepped forward. "Let him go. This is between you and me." He laughed. "No, Mark, this started long before you." He began to talk. About money, about threats, about how Emily tried to pay them back, about how she wanted to tell me everything. "She said you were too good," he sneered, "that you wouldn't survive the truth." Rage burned through me, but I stayed calm. "That's where you're wrong," I said. I raised my phone. I recorded everything. I said, "Live." The men froze. Sirens exploded outside. My brother's smile vanished. The police stormed in, guns raised, orders shouted. One of the men ran. He didn't make it far. My brother dropped to his knees as they cuffed him. He finally looked at me, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't mean for her to die," he whispered. "Yes, you did," I said. "You just didn't think it would matter." Daniel was freed. He leaned against me, weak but alive. Weeks later, the truth was everywhere. Emily's story, the money, the lies, the murder. My brother went to prison for life. The others followed. Daniel and I stood together at Emily's grave one last time. "She loved you," he said quietly. "I know," I replied, "and I will make sure her truth never dies." As I walked away, I felt something I hadn't felt since the funeral. Peace. They tried to destroy me with lies. Instead, I buried them with the truth.